Hi, everyone, and welcome to another session of these Achiever web meets. And the purpose of these webinars really is to improve, is to just give you stuff that you find useful for both as a radiologist, but also particularly for those who are sitting exams to help you with exam preparation. So that is the purpose of these sessions. So what I'm going to do first of all is just have a quick presentation around what we think is a formula to a successful radiology study group session. And some of you already know that we've started some sort of facilitated study group sessions, but I by no means believe that that is the end all. You know, it's not the whole thing. You need more of these in order to succeed in exams and other ways. But so let us get going then. Um, so this quote, individually we are one drop, together we are an ocean. I have to say that I have personally benefited a lot from collaboration. And there's been decades of research by various educational psychologists that have shown that when students work together in a collaborative sort of way, they learn much better. And than when they just sit alone doing their own work on a computer. And a small group peer learning environment, it complements the sort of learning that you do when when you are in sort of a traditional webinar. I mean, we have to bring this to the new age, if you like. And the traditional way of just watching webinars or going to a conference and listening to stuff. Personally, I find that I learn much better when I'm in a small group or in a tutorial style, or even when I learn one-to-one. There's something, isn't there, about learning collaboratively in a collaborative method that makes sure that you uh, helps retention. Okay. Now, a small group environment also helps with the opportunity for what you can call academic risk taking, where you can ask a question and you can try out new ideas and so on. So it also gives you an opportunity to ask questions in a much more personal way rather than in a way that you might feel embarrassed maybe. Um, and you don't sort of have to reveal your sort of lack of knowledge in a particular area. You can deal with it in a much smaller group. And the other big advantage with learning together is that you get to observe each other's thought processes and learning strategies. So you learn from a large number of people, and it kind of adds to your toolbox of strategies for learning. Okay. Can I just have a little thing on the chat box to check that you can all hear me and this is all good? So do we want some more? Okay, let's go on then. Just so many students find it helpful to study in groups to help them better externalize their thoughts. And that keeps the whole study session stimulating. It helps also with maintaining accountability. So when you're thinking about a study group, you need to think about who is in the study group, how many are there in a study group, where will the group meet? Usually it's online in this day and age, but surely if you have the opportunity to meet together, that could be quite nice, because there is something about meeting people face to face that improves learning. The other thing is, how long should the sessions be, and when, what time and how frequently should you meet? Um, Personally, I think it's a good idea to keep your study groups small. I think 4 to 6 people is really the maximum, but you could have study groups as small as 2, and a lot of the study groups that I ran were groups of 2 people. I'm sorry about the bell, but I'm just going to ignore that. Um, Most study groups are the ones that I've done are generally between 2 and 4 people. 2 and 3 people is what I've done the most. Can I just ask, yeah, that you don't switch on your video for the moment anyway? And Maria, if you can switch it off as soon as people sign in. Um, in larger groups, group members can't contribute as much, and organization of it can be a problem. But if you have 2 or 3 people, then, or up to 6, you can usually manage it, which is why many of our courses we stick to 4 people in a group. And in our study group sessions, which some of you experienced yesterday, I recognize some of you are online now. It was a group of 2, and a group of 2 is really ideal when you're doing vivas. But sometimes it can be helpful to have a third person, and maybe that's something that we will explore in our study groups. There are many factors that influence how effective a study group is. But one thing to do is make sure that, for example, the personality of the people, and that kind of stuff can also make a big difference. Their language skills, whether they speak English well as a first language. So those can be barriers, and in a way, what we are trying to do in our study groups is create a lot of mixture, where you don't know who you're going to get, and build it up to start with, so that you find in the process, you find someone who you would like to work with, and maybe you can then continue doing study group sessions with a few people together. But set an agenda. If you're going to be sitting together, learning something, whether it's reviewing rapid reporting cases or long cases, or whether you're studying for 2A exams, or anatomy exams or physics exams, what you want to do is decide ahead of time what you're going to focus on this today. And then if there are, multiple areas that you want to study together, you could ask one of your colleagues, and I've done that. We used to ask one of the group members to go and study a particular topic very well, and then feed back to the group. So we would all be reading together, maybe taking something like day note out and read a little bit around that topic, and then we would speak it out to the other people. And when you are listening to someone, some people, especially people like me, who are very auditory, found it easier to learn when I'm listened than when I'm reading. So it could be that some of you learn better when you listen, and also when you teach. So it could be that you get together, um, and decide, okay, we're going to study arthropathies. So you go and read a little bit about rheumatoid. I'll read about non-seronegative or seronegative ones, and I'll read about the seropositive ones. And like that, you can divide your session up, and then you can look together at maybe pictures of Radiopedia, and teach each other radiology, or I don't know. I presume that most of you who are on the call are radiologists, but if I could just ask some of you, are any of you non-radiologists on the call today? If you are, please can you let us know? It'll help me make the talk a little bit more general. But at the moment, I'm going to assume that everyone is a radiologist and is preparing for an exam or wants to learn something. So that's the assumption. Can I just ask, perhaps you could put on the chat box if you're preparing for an exam, and maybe just tell us which exam it is. Then it helps us to know a little bit who our audience is. So, and then, so the and the other thing you could do is you could you could even not do it at, not do the reading beforehand, but maybe, or, I mean, do the reading beforehand. If let's say you have a study group, you can say, for the next session, we are going to discuss this. Can you do this? I'll do this. Can you do this? And then, you know, within 4 or 5 people, you can really make, you could review differential diagnosis of a particular condition if you're preparing for 2B. I see that 2 people here, they're all preparing for 2B. Anyone preparing for any other exam like physics or anatomy or anything like that? But if you are, then you could go ahead and study maybe the anatomy of the liver, and someone else could prepare the anatomy of the gallbladder or anatomy of the kidney, and together you could meet up. You could demonstrate, maybe show all the bits of the liver on a cross-sectional image that you can get free from the internet. Perhaps, you know, just do a search. Pretty much everything is available, and you can teach each other that. Okay. So set an agenda. Secondly, thirdly, select a group leader. I think it does help to have someone who's going to be a facilitator. You can either have a permanent facilitator, or you can have the leader of the week, who will be a sort of timekeeper, help the group remain on task. And the leader can also coordinate, plan the meetings, and also inform all the members. And you can change the members, the leader maybe every month, so that one leader is not overwhelming for the members. In terms of timing, I would say meet at least weekly, if not more often. And I would say decide a mutually agreeable time. Usually it'll be late evening, because most of you are working in the day session, in the daytime. You could you agree on the length of the session ahead of time. Between 60 and 90 minutes is probably max. And then you can use websites to, like, there's a website called Doodle that I have used personally. And there's another one called When to Meet, when number 2 meet. And then you could set it, you could send out a doodle to ask everyone what's the best time to meet, and then you come up with a consensus. And it is better to consider times when setting times, that when people will be focused, and if you are going to socialize, add a little bit of time for that as well. Okay. Have a regular structure. That's what I've said there. Let's move on now. So why form an account, a study group? So what I don't know if there was a group there. Yeah. So what I would say is, why form a study group? It is really about accountability. Okay. That's one of the main things. And I just read this proverb out. If you want to go fast, go alone. But if you want to go far, and especially I'd say retain information, go together. And I must say that a lot of the stuff that I have learned from that I've retained has been stuff that has been discussed in my study groups when I was a trainee. So question is, why would you form a study group? There's some people want to quickly give some answers, some of the reasons why you would, so that we can be a bit interactive here. Why would you form a study group? Can we have at least one response? Anyone up for it? Just give a few seconds for someone to write up. There are a few people here. So obviously some of the reasons I already gave, but in addition to that would be things like accountability. You'll be more prepared, and you would stay focused when you know that the group is counting on you or depending on you. Secondly, I would say active studying. You're much likelier to be an active studier when you're in a group, rather than when you're just watching a webinar passively. Thirdly, support. if you have a question or you need help, your group will be there to help you. So if there's an area that you are weak in, you would have a group. And I'd say another major one is community. You're all in it together. You're working towards a common goal, and most students find it enjoyable to study in a group than alone. So I think these are some of the few benefits. If anyone has any more benefits, please put them down there. So here's some more here. Support and motivation is a big one. When you're in groups, you'll be able to study. And I'll tell you, one of the big problems that people have preparing for exams, especially if they start about 3 to 6 months ahead, is maintaining motivation. And I know that a lot of people have managed to pass these exams in 3 months and 1 month even. But I must say, they usually have to, they probably are candidates who already know a lot, have been practicing, and don't realize how good they've become. But in general, the more you give time, the more you practice, the more likely and the amount of time you give, the better. So you need motivation, you need support during that time. The other thing is procrastination. If you are in a study group and you meet on regular times, you are unlikely to procrastinate. You'll tell your family, I've got a study group session now, I have to be free. And you will start finding yourself able to separate all the other stuff you need to do, perhaps very important stuff, things like family and, um, other things that you need to do. But your exam is also important, and you and I know that if that things can always come in the way to make you procrastinate. So having a set time that you need to attend, for example, if you're in our FRCR study groups, I would say put that into your calendar and make that almost make it almost immovable that you will be attending those sessions. Partly because you want to see the cases that are presented there. You want to have practice, and unless there is something really earth-shattering, try not to miss it. And thirdly, you will find yourself developing both as a student, as the as a person, and also professionally. I think confidence will come because you're starting to teach. You're starting to teach and learn from people who might be very different to you. You will also learn to improve your communication skills, which also helps you in refining your understanding of the material. And it has been quite proven that people who participate in study groups are more confident and comfortable about reaching their goals. So in this case, usually it's exam, you usually feel a lot more confident. And that's what happened to me anyway. When I was preparing for my exam, I felt a lot more confident because I had done this. I could do it in my sleep. Okay. I could present in my sleep. It was a process that I had, and it was something I could do in my sleep. The other big benefit is to get a better insight. You might know a little bit about, we've taken the example of arthropathies, you might know a little bit about it, but when someone else says something new that you haven't thought about or you didn't learn, or someone maybe a bit more experienced who from practice has heard something that has helped them with differentiating the various arthropathies. I'm just taking an example here. You will be able to add to your existing knowledge. So you'll get much more sort of through that sort of brainstorming of information from different people. You will get a lot of valuable information about the um, topic.